Hello, it's Kass Naidoo and back with another big interview. This week, one of my favorite people in sport because she really is someone who can juggle a lot. And as a woman in sport, guess what? You've got to juggle a lot. I'm talking about South African women's hockey goalkeeper Phumelela Mbande. Phumi, it's good to have you on. It's been a while. How are you?
Very good, thank you, Kass. It's really good to be here with you. It's been a while since we chatted, yes.
Well, COVID has made it difficult, hasn't it? It's changed everything. How's it changed it for you?
Look, it's been a whole new world. Lots of challenges just from a sporting perspective, from a work perspective. But I think it's been a really nice opportunity to see how we can sort of redefine ourselves and what we do, especially in terms of work-life flexibility. I think when I look at the audit space specifically, I've had a lot more chance, a lot more opportunity to really try balance work and hockey a lot better. Working from home, you can sort of step into the gym in the morning and then quickly shower and get back to work, which is not always so easy when you're working a tight, I want to say 9 to 5, but it's more like 9 to 9. But yeah, it's been really nice. First bit was maybe a bit more challenging, but the more we've gone into it, the better we've gotten at it. So we're working now. It's comfortable, fairly comfortable.
It's tough to become a chartered accountant. It's tougher when you're also managing a national sporting career. How have you managed to get this together and get the balance right?
With a lot of luck, a lot of prayer. On the real, it has been incredibly difficult, but I think I've had a really great support system in terms of the coaches that I've worked with, the players that I've played with, my parents at home, my siblings. It's definitely a dream that I had, and with the people around me, I was able to sort of navigate my way through. Lots of crying, but it's nice to see how it's all played out now. I think if you ask anyone who's in audit, the first thing they'll say is, don't do it, it's not possible. I remember when I first started articles, everyone was saying, no manager will ever let you go for 6 weeks at a time to play a tournament or whatever. But what I've realized in my journey is both, not just at work, but even when I was still varsity and with the coaches that I've worked with, if you just speak up to people and you approach it like head on before things get to the messy part, I think a lot of people are really willing to assist, and everyone loves a good hard-working story or like a good story behind the person that you see in front of you. So if you just get buy-in from the different people involved, it becomes a bit easier to manage. Lots of crying, but it's, like I said, there's people that want to make it work.
I love the fact that hockey has played such a great part in your development as a person. You don't keep your sport separate and your corporate separate. Hockey is your joy, isn't it?
100%. Like, whenever anyone asks about the hockey, like I get a huge smile on my face because, like you said, it's such a big part of who I am. And I think it's such a big part of my journey, really, and how far I've come as a person, the opportunities that I've been afforded. It's all come through what I've been able to do on the hockey field. It really is an integral part of me as a person.
When you go back to primary school and that first opportunity to have a look at hockey, what was your real thoughts about the sport?
I said, hell no. The first time I saw hockey ball, I was like, there's no way I'm doing that. I didn't know anything about hockey before I actually started playing. I literally, when I was 10 years old, I got to a school where hockey was a compulsory sport. The only sport I'd ever really been exposed to before then was athletics and netball. I didn't play netball, it was something that I saw people around me play. And then when I got to Linford, it was the compulsory winter sport, and we didn't really have a choice. But when I saw the ball and I saw the kit bag, I was like, yeah, I'm going to navigate towards that direction. It seems to make a lot of sense. And even now, like I always say, I think hockey players are a little bit crazy. As a goalkeeper, I feel a lot safer than I think field players are. But yeah, it's my first thoughts about the sport, no ways. But obviously, I grew to love it a lot, and it's where I'm happiest, and it's where I'm most proud to be.
And it's probably been massive in terms of your development in those formative years when you have a look at how you moved through university, was able to study, play hockey. In later years to come, you're going to look at this and say, well, hockey really has touched every aspect of who I am.
So I often have conversations with other players about what it would feel like to get to retirement age. I mean, I'm 28 now, so that's sort of
far away.
People around me are sort of starting to have those conversations. Yes, and I always say I'm so scared of what life would be like without hockey. Like so much of and it's a good thing, but it's also quite a bad thing. But so much of who I am as a person is defined by my sport. To the point that when I'm having a bad phase in hockey, I sort of have a bad life phase as well. It feels like my life's falling apart. And it's something I've been working with my psychologist to not define myself by my good and bad moments on the field. Like I'm a person outside of hockey. But that's literally the extent that it goes to, that it takes up every part of my life so much. Like my social life comes second best, my work life sort of comes first and second. Like there's a balance that I try to figure out there, but like everyone in my life knows you probably not see me because I'm at training or I've got a game on the weekend, that type of thing. So it really has, like you said, touched every aspect of my life, and I dread just thinking about what life will be like once I eventually retire.
I have to say that that obsessive passion will play a role at some stage. And one of the ways I think it may play out in your life is you're very passionate about transformation in hockey, players for transformation and a movement that you're really part of. I have a feeling this passion will really be able to stir you when the times get tough, in a tough conversation.
Look, I think it's what I look at when I think about players for transformation and what that means is, like, I look at myself and the opportunity that I've gotten through hockey, and the fact that that opportunity only came as a result of my having gone to a private school in primary school, and to be able to give that opportunity to someone else, to be able to extend that sort of privilege or like chance at life really, is a massive thing. And having been part of those type of conversations, I can sort of lean on that experience and that discussion that I've had, that tough conversation that I've had, I can lean on in other spheres of my life. Like when I have boardroom meetings and I'm having to put my foot down and I'm speaking to a CFO of a listed company, it's a little bit stressful, but I'm also like, yes, but I have had this type of conversation many a time before, and it's something I'm passionate about, it's something I can speak to, it's something that I know, and I know well, and I can sort of use that experience to navigate my way through those type of conversations.
Who are the people that have inspired you to get to where you are today?
This is always a tough question, because I'd like to think I draw inspiration from moments or people's experiences more than people specifically. My mom has played a huge part in shaping me as a person. My high school coach, Mrs. Johnson, was a huge part of, like, it's always so weird. I mean, I'm 10 years out of school now, but I always still refer to her as a huge part of my hockey journey, my career, because I think outside of my primary school coaches, she was probably the first person who really saw something in me and invested time, effort, money that she maybe didn't need to, but she saw something in me and she was like, I'm going to bet on this girl. And I think if we had more people who do that for our women athletes, we could get our women's sport a lot further in this country. I struggled to pinpoint, outside of my mom and my coach, I struggled to pinpoint a specific person, but I think I'm inspired by specific moments that people put out there.
If you just joined us, I'm chatting to South African women's hockey goalkeeper Phumelela Mbande. She started playing hockey very young in her life and continues to inspire a new generation of hockey players. We're chatting to South African women's hockey goalkeeper Phumelela Mbande on the big interview here on gsport. Remember to click like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for some great stories in women's sport. Phumelela, it's finally Olympic year. COVID is making way. A little bit of a different prospect, no fans being allowed, but another tough journey for your team in trying to get support, funding, sponsorship to get to the showpiece event.
Yes, Kass, I think the last the last 12 months has been crazy, just from a people perspective, from a world perspective, and even more so from an athlete's perspective. Just the amount of uncertainty. You have this big thing that you dream about from when you were a child that, is it going to happen, is it not? Should I really be concerned about this when there's people literally losing lives, losing family, losing loved ones out there? It's been a very weird space to navigate, but I think anyone who's involved in any sort of system to get to the Olympics is incredibly excited about the opportunity. Like you said, it's going to be quite different than what we're used to, and it's maybe not the big or crowd-filled event that it has been in the past. But I think, ask anyone who's involved, the Olympics is the Olympics, whether there's 50,000 supporters or there's just your coach and the assistant coach on the side of the field. To be able to take part in such would be a huge privilege, and I think we're all really, really excited about it.
In a nutshell, if you had to paint a picture to someone who doesn't understand the landscape of women's hockey, what do you have to do to get to the Olympics?
Well, to really break it down, I think it would be to first say that you have to take part in an interprovincial tournament. So you must be part of a club in one of the provinces in South Africa, and you must then go to trials and be selected to play for your provincial side. From the provincial side, you must then be selected by selectors at the tournament to say, listen, we've seen something in you, we're interested in, it's basically like scouting, we're interested in seeing you in a different environment, so outside of your team, your comfort zone. You then are selected to go to a training camp. We had our last a big training camp in December where I think there were about 46, 47 of us that took part in that. Then from the training camps, so training camp is where the whole squad regroups, but in between all of that, there's national trainings in the different provinces. There's training programs that you have to subscribe to, and you submit fitness results at the end of the month. So we started, with COVID and everything, with our reset button, it probably happened around August. And then we submitted our first set of testing results at the end of September, so September, October, November. And then we had a December camp, and before that camp we had a selection process, a testing process again. If you pass the fitness test, then you were eligible to trial it at the camp. And then it's been centralized programs now for every second weekend, the squad regroups and we train together in Johannesburg at St. Stithians. And that's just from a South African hockey selection perspective. As a South African hockey team, we still needed to, 2019, we had to go to Valencia in Spain to take part in a World Hockey Tournament. We needed to rank at a certain position, and then after that we had to take part in the Africa Cup, which was held at Stellenbosch also in 2019. We won that, quite happy to do that. We won, I think we beat Ghana in the final 4-0 if I'm not mistaken. And then that's South African hockey's qualification for the Olympics. But like I said, there's a whole selection process that goes on. We are currently a 26-man squad that's actually going to be cut down to 21 players in the next couple of days. And then going forward, we keep cutting until we get to the final 16, which will be announced, I think, around May, if I'm not mistaken.
And the irony of it all is that even when you get to that squad, if you have no funding, you may end up not going to the Olympics.
That's the really, really tough pill to swallow for all of us. South African hockey is an amateur sport. We actually have a big base in the country. There's a lot of school players, and I think school players is our biggest base for South African hockey players, but obviously the further out you go, because we're not professional, the more the numbers sort of reduce. We currently have a sponsor super group, but with the last 12 months of COVID, the company itself is struggling, so that's been a little bit difficult at the moment. We need to try fundraise around, as it stands, it's around 45,000 Rand per player in order to get us to the Olympics. Hopefully we'll be able to get a sponsor that will be involved with the whole team and sort of assist us with our Olympic journey. But it is a very, very real possibility that if you don't have funding, even if you are in the final 16, you may not be able to go to the Olympics because it is self-funded at the moment.
Let's flip the script and say we need to raise 45,000 Rand per player, South Africa. How can we do it? How can you inspire South Africans to support this team? Because it has been a journey and you've worked so very hard to get here, each and every one of you, not just over the past year or even 2 years, but since the very beginning when you chose hockey.
100%. I think if you look at all of our players that are currently in our squad, it's players that have played from as young as 6 years old. I started playing when I was 10. There's some players who started a little bit after that, but for most of us, we started playing from a very young age. It's something the Olympics is something we've dreamt about from when we were little girls. I remember 2008 Olympics, the first hockey match I watched on TV. That was in the era of Marsha Marisha, Kass Naidoo, Taryn Bright, and they were playing. So my point is, at the time, I never realistically thought I would be eligible to be in an Olympic team, but it's something that I was inspired by from way back then already. I think the biggest thing for us as the South African women's hockey team, or the most inspiring thing, is seeing how we have literally been defying all odds to be able to compete at an international level. If you look at our team, there's a lot of students. I can think of like Untadile Zulu, she's a third year varsity student. Nomnigelo Veta just finished at Vets. We've got young players that are just coming into the setup. Hannah Pierce is actually based in the US and she's taken time off, a semester off, in order to try and be part of this program and give herself the best chance to make this Olympic side. The point that I make is it's not just older players like myself who are working. There's also a lot of varsity students. There's a lot of students, a lot of people that are self-employed. Celia Evans runs her own coaching clinics around the country. I mean, with COVID, we haven't been able to coach any players. No one's been able to really participate in any sport. So her source of income has sort of been put aside. The point that I make is we are a group of young women in South Africa trying to achieve and attain our biggest dreams while also trying to live a life outside of the sport. And it's an incredibly big thing, or an incredibly difficult thing to try and wrap your head around when you think of the fact that our first match at the Olympics is scheduled to be against the Dutch, and they have a fully funded full-time program. All they do is play hockey, they get paid to play hockey, and we need to try and compete with that. And like I said, if you look at what we do as athletes, our day-to-day, and you compare to what our counterparts are doing at an international level, we definitely are in the more difficult position. But I don't think it stopped any of us from dreaming and believing that we can get ourselves to the Olympics and achieve really, really big things. If you look at how much has been invested, both on and off the field in our last 12 months, you'll see that we're definitely a very, very passionate group of young women.
Well, I'm so inspired because I've walked a long journey with South African women's hockey. I've seen over the years just how challenging it's been, but also, as you said, you've overcome adversity to get here. Away from the Olympics, is there a program over the next couple of years that if a sponsor was watching this interview would say, well, not just the Olympics, but perhaps there's an opportunity for me to get involved in women's hockey? What's to come aside from the Olympics?
So that's the biggest thing at the moment, that because of the way because of the way sponsorship is centered around the Olympics, the South African Olympic team will have one team sponsor. So as hockey, we specifically can't sell anything for this coming tournament. But next year is a massive year from a hockey perspective. We've got the Africa Cup qualifier, which is to qualify us for the World Cup. There's also the Commonwealth Games. So that's three massive events that sponsors can look to get involved with. So when you look at the next 4 months, from a sponsorship perspective, there might not be a lot that South African women's hockey can give the sponsors, but literally as soon as the Olympics are over, we have big, I want to say 18 months ahead of us that we can really reap the rewards of. So yes, the Olympics are big. The Olympics are the biggest funding that we need at the moment, but sponsors need to be aware that the benefits of that will be reaped. Literally, you can go crazy in the next 18 months following the Olympics.
Well, you know, if ever you retire from hockey, because I know it's going to come, you certainly have a role to play, perhaps as CEO of South African hockey. I think the experience you're picking up along the journey is just going to be amazing. I can't wait to be part of your journey going forward. But all I want to say is you started playing hockey at the age of 10. You made your debut in 2012. You're sitting here in 2021 with a couple of great goals that you can achieve. What is the one thing Phumelela Mbande wants to still achieve in hockey? And you know that if you put your best foot forward, as you've done with your studies and your hockey, you can achieve it.
Oh, this is massive. This is
massive. I'm going to hold you to it.
Actually, there's so much that I want, not just for myself, but for my team. Like I think, like I said, we're such a passionate young group of players, and I wish I could explain to people out there how much goes on behind the scenes to getting us to where we currently are. I think if I were to think of a specific goal that I want to attain for myself, I think it's, if I make the Olympic team, firstly, to really put in a good performance, to give us a fighting chance as South African women's hockey. I think in the past we've had a good group of players, and I think things haven't always gone our way to get us to where we're trying to get to. If I could get us through as a goalkeeper, I think this is a little bit in my control, but if I could get us a good enough performance to get us to a quarter-final at the Olympics, it's a massive, massive dream. And when you look at our rankings and where we at South African hockey versus the people that are in our pool, I think it's a massive, massive reach, but I definitely don't think it's unattainable. I've seen what we can achieve as the South African women's hockey team. I've seen the talent that we have, and I think it's something that we can definitely get to. So right now, that is my biggest dream as an individual, but I think it's obviously something that I need to attain with my team. And then overall, in the next maybe 2 or 3 years, looking at what's happening now and Commonwealth World Cup next year, if we as a team could push South African hockey rankings up back to 12th place, maybe not in the next 3 years, but definitely in the next 5 years, I think that would be a massive, massive dream. In the past, we've always wanted to make top 10, but I think the ripple effect of not going to the 2016 Olympics and the lack of international competition in the last couple of years has sort of pushed us down, and I think we currently ranked 16th. So I don't think 12 is unattainable. I just think there's a lot of work that needs to go into that. So I think those are my two biggest dreams: quarterfinals at an Olympics now, and then top 12 in the next 3 or 4 years. That would be really great.
Well, I think you've set it up for the sponsors. You've put a really good pitch forward about what's to come. And it's all about performances in the end. Funding is important, but we've seen with the Momentum Proteas too, beating India in India, those kind of big performances. It's when sponsors can't ignore you. You have our full support at G-Sport, and I appreciate how you support our work at G-Sport. So thank you very much, and I look forward to South Africa backing you girls.
Thank you so much, Kass. I think anyone in the South African women's sporting industry is fully aware of just how much work G-Sport does for women in sport. I've been following the Momentum Proteas through G-Sport actually, so it's been really, really nice seeing how their story has played out. I think back to the netball girls 2 years ago, I think how things really turned around from there, and as soon as they started getting a little bit more financial backing. And it just goes to show that it literally just takes someone in corporate putting their hand up and saying, these are the women I'm going to back. And I think it would be really, really great to see South African hockey have something like that happen to us. Thank you so much for the coverage that you're always giving us as women in sport, and I really hope that we'll be able to get something from this campaign of ours.
Phumelela Mbande, she's the inspirational South African women's hockey goalkeeper, joining us on this big interview. Catch it all across at G Sport Girls.